Fort Worth Star-Telegram. The title of the tweet is, "The time has come." From a source close to the situation, the Cowboys are set to part ways with Zeke Elliott, and the running back is preparing to start fresh with a new team. The move could come as soon as this afternoon when the 2023 calendar officially starts at 3 p.m. and teams have to be under the cap. And joining us now on the Diamond Factory hotline is the Clarence Hill from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Good morning, man. What's up?
What's up, guys? How you guys doing?
Doing well. So were you expecting this info to be given to you today? Was this writing on the wall, or did you think in the back of your mind, Cowboys are going to figure out a way to keep Zeke around?
You know, I always figured this was going to be the end result. I never bought into them figuring a way to keep Zeke around. I just didn't see a path, a number that made sense. You know, especially if you give Tony Pollard the $10 million signing bonus. I mean, not signing bonus, but the franchise tag, and the way things have gone for Elliott in declining play the last few years. I just didn't see a path forward. You know, and it sounded good, and certainly Jerry, you know, said the right things, but you know, they never moved in that direction. That, you know, there was not any real talk with his agent about doing that.
Yeah, I was wondering how little Zeke was willing to stay for. Like, was he going to be cool with being a backup to Pollard? Would they have actually made him the backup to Pollard? Like, under what circumstances was Zeke willing to stay for? Does he think he can go and start somewhere else?
Well, you know, yeah, and that's part of it. Certainly, we would certainly have to, you know, discontinue the charade that Zeke was the starting running back and Pollard was the backup, right? Which kind of was the deal at the end of this year when Pollard was the primary running back on this team, you know, the most important weapon on this team outside of CeeDee Lamb. But we had to have Zeke start the game. Right. You know, and Zeke believes he has some years left for sure. And they certainly think that, you know, they you know, healthy, you know, if he's healthy and doesn't have the knee injuries, you know, he would have probably would have topped 1,000 yards last year, you know, and he had it going pretty good until the knee injury. So, you know, they feel they can, you know, obviously they think that, you know, their name and their history and their resume that they will have a market, and we'll see.
Clarence, you know, we know what was said in the locker room by Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard in terms of how this transition was playing out. And we saw the you know, puff pieces, I guess you could say, on Sunday Night Football and stuff like that about, look at this, how it's just been so smooth and everybody's without ego. Do you think it was probably a more just difficult transition for Zeke than we were led to believe publicly, just the having to kind of cede that a little bit to Tony Pollard?
No, I truly believe Zeke is the team player that everybody said he was, and he displayed that. If you just watch his interactions, he was Tony Pollard's biggest fan, and you know, I think Zeke understood the importance of Tony Pollard and what Tony Pollard was bringing to the table. I think that, you know, earlier last year, year before last, when people were trying to force it, you know, it got personal. But I think this year, Zeke, you know, came to understand and is talking to his people. They understood how important Tony was. So I don't think there was any animosity with sharing of the load and Tony Pollard's greater role this year than in past years. But yeah, with any athlete, you know, when you have been the man and always been the man, you know, not being the man or the primary guy, you know, it's a transition. It takes something to get used to. But, you know, Zeke is a guy, you know, you go back to Ohio State, he shared the load. He's always shared the load. You know, and here, he's been the primary guy. But from an ego standpoint, from a team player standpoint, Zeke was good with, you know, how the Cowboys handled the running back position this year.
Chill, do you think the position is in play in the first round for them?
Well, who's available? I mean, tell
your
me
guy,
who's
your
available.
guy, your guy's available.
Bijan, Chill, say yes.
You know, what's crazy to me is these sycophants, or whatever you want to call them. You can never take a running back in the first round.
You're talking to one in RJ Choppy.
Yeah, I am one.
That is just, you know, poor team building.
Yes, correct.
So you don't take a great player in the first round because he's a running back?
Tell him, Chill.
You know, I mean, that just makes no sense to me. The best player on the board, and some people have Bijan, if we're talking about Bijan, is a top 5 talent in the draft overall. If you look at some of these, draft nicks and everybody else and how they break that down as far as the top players in the draft, but because of his position, he's going to be pushed down. It's interesting. We talked to Stephen Jones at the Combine, and he said that I asked him that question, about the philosophy of running backs, and he's with everyone else, because of the value of running backs. Now, certainly he has Zeke, and he picked Zeke's 4th overall, but, because of the evaluation of running back, you don't take a running back at the top end of the draft, top 10, 15 picks. But if that's the case, that whole mindset is out because, as you said, most drafts only have 18 to 20 quote-unquote first-round picks. If a running back at 26, and most drafts only have 18 to 20 first-round picks, that's not a position where you say, well, we can't take a draft running back. Especially in this day and age, if you're going to get a guy, and I think that's one thing that we've learned about running backs, certainly now, that when they come in, they're in their prime of their career, this is when you get them. This is when you use them for the first 5 or 6 years. Run them to death like you did Zeke. Get your money's worth. People talk about Zeke's career, but the first 4 years of Zeke's career, first 5 years of Zeke's career, he was everything the Cowboys wanted him to be. He was a big part of this team. He was not that running back position, drafted a running back in the first round, did not hold this team back, from achieving the Super Bowl success. He was a big part of their success, period. And if you get a running back at this point, at 26, to be a big part of your success, especially when you got a team that's ready to win now, you have to pull the trigger, don't you?
We're talking with Clarence Hill Jr. from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram about his report that the Cowboys are set to part ways with Ezekiel Elliott. Chill, do you think this would be something where they're just ripping the Band-Aid off and saying straight release, or are we looking at a post-June 1st release? How do you think they're going to handle it?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, I think post-June 1st is probably best just because, it gives you more cap room to work with this year. And of course, the cap is going to go up next year. You can absorb, the next part of it. But, you need the room. You need, you got all these trades. You got to get room for the Gilmore trade and pretenders and everything else, and you still want to be players in free agency. You need the cap room.
Clarence, how do you feel about, you're on Twitter as much as anybody, and you hear it from the fan base. Many of us have been critical. Man, the Cowboys, they're just asleep. They had a big day yesterday, but it was for a 5th-round pick and minimal money to Van Der Esch. How do you feel about this free agency approach and Stephen Jones being cap boy and keeping all the money underneath his pillow?
Mm-hmm.
I've always said, and it's funny because the Cowboys have not made major moves for free since Brandon Carr.
Right.
And poor Brandon Carr, since 2012, they have not made a big splash of free agency, and it's their philosophy. We're going to draft and develop and sign our guys. We like our guys, and that's good. But I've always felt, and I've said this, written this year after year after year, you still have to supplement what you do in the draft with free agency. I mean, free agency is there for a reason, and you can't get everything in the draft. You have to supplement that with making moves in free agency, not necessarily bargain-based moves, making moves to get sometimes top-tier talent in free agency. And I've always thought they should do that. I didn't like when Jerry tried to claim that Dak's contract is what is stopping them from bringing top-end talent to the team, because they weren't bringing top-end talent in free agency before,
Right.
Dak got his deal.
Yeah. Is there is there a name on your wish list, or a name you think that could be in play? Jalen Ramsey, we had a lot of discussion over the weekend. You got the Odell stuff out there. You have DeAndre Hopkins out there. What do you think they could be thinking, if anything?
Well, yeah, that's just it. I don't know if this is a great free agent class. There's not this guy that, hey, we got to move heaven and earth to go get. Do you see that? Just like we talked about, Gilmore was a nice move, but again, you gave up a 5th-round pick for him.
Right.
So that and he's 33. And you're not paying him a boatload of money. I don't know if that guy is out there where you're going to be spending that kind of money on a free agent to help your team. But yeah, they need to go get a veteran receiver. There's no question about that. This receiving core was one of the worst in the league last year.
How do you feel about this Kellen to McCarthy offensive play caller transition?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's funny because I think that Mike McCarthy has won 12 games in back-to-back years. As Stephen Jones said, they won more games the past 2 years than any team except the Chiefs. Yet they certainly don't have the Chiefs' playoff success. No Cowboys coach has won 12 games in back-to-back years since the 90s. But it feels like Mike McCarthy is coaching for his job in 2023.
Hopefully not. Sean Payton's got a job now. I don't have to worry about him looking over his shoulder.
We got Dan Quinn, baby.
Doesn't it feel that way?
Yes,
it does.
Your job, you're still coaching for your job. I just think that, if he's going to go out, he's going to go out his way. He wants to do it his way. I mean, there's always been philosophical differences between how he to coach the game and philosophy of the game and in Kellen Moore's philosophies. And so he's going to do it his way. Again, the notion that the Cowboys have gone as far as they could go with Kellen Moore and the way he did things, to me, is offset by the fact that you give him the best weapons to work with in 2022. How do you know that you've gone as far as you go with Kellen Moore, that this system reached its limit when you had that type of receiving core out there, and you wouldn't have 49ers game with just two weapons in Tony Pollard and CeeDee Lamb that would scare anyone. And certainly when Pollard got hurt, you had one.